Hi everyone. Today's warm-up and workout is going to focus on playing metronomically to the grid. And you can do it on any instrument, honestly. I'm going to focus on bass since this is a bass channel. You can do it on bass arco with a bow, you can do it pizz, you could even do this on electric bass. And I'm actually curious to hear from anyone who tries it on other instruments how it works out for you. I'm going to talk a bit to give some background, but if you just want to jump ahead to the workout, just click on the bookmark below so you can jump to that. So, first of all, what is the grid? Basically, it's a way of thinking just very metronomically, and if any of you have worked in a recording program, you'll see sort of a grid mapped out. So you'll see lines where the beats would be. You can change them depending what you're in, but the idea is that you can play so that all your notes line up exactly with one of the metronomic lines. Now, this is obviously not the only way to play rhythmically, so just moving aside, great drummers can play a great groove and be steady, but still have some sway, some swing. And I'm not even talking about jazz swing, just having some breathing room in their beats. That is a great way to play. You can even push it all the way to like the D'Angelo stuff, where you can start getting almost sloppy with the beat, making one of the beats late, but it's still steady. That's getting a little bit off the grid, and that is a very fine art and is great to learn. Then if you play an orchestra, obviously the pulse can really move around within the orchestra, even within a good orchestra, and everyone stays together, but it's very fluid. So that's, in a sense, a sort of a different skill on the end of things. But any good drummer, any good musician can lock in, has the skill, has the sensitivity to lock in right on the grid when it's time to do so. So that's what we're going to be working on today. Now, besides just having a refined sense of time where you really feel the difference between like being right here on the beat versus being like a smidge behind, or in front, having that sensitivity, there's also the importance of being consistent in your playing. So even if you have the best time in the world, if what you're playing isn't coming out quite consistently, then you're not on the grid anymore, or you're not playing steadily. So let's just talk about really quickly on arco, what does that mean? If you want to be very consistent, basically you just want to take away any variations. So you want your contact point to be at the same place. And right now I'm just talking about doing like 2 or 3 notes in a row. So it's not like we're going to do a big shift where we have to move. So contact point, same place. Weight, same. Bow speed, the same. Just go back and forth. Same weight, same speed. For the exercise today, I'm not going to be adding a lot of articulation. All the articulation will come from just sinking into the string from the beginning and having the tone from there. I won't be adding like extra acceleration of bow or anything like that. So right now today we're just looking to keep a very consistent sound, and 2 or 3 notes in a row will sound exactly the same. So just take out any variations and just keep all those points as similar as you can. Pizzicato. The easiest way to be consistent on pizzicato is probably using one finger, whether you're going sideways, sort of diagonal like we would for jazz, or a little more like electric technique. Because it's one finger, it sounds about the same. But often with speed, we have to use 2 fingers. So for me, when doing that, I put the thumb against the edge of the fingerboard just to ground it. And then I'm going to try to get my angle as similar as possible. If I'm too diagonal, I can do it, but it's going to be a little different. So I'm just trying to imitate. And I'm also going to observe whether I'm playing into the air, basically releasing diagonally, or if I'm going to hit the next string. Either one works, but just be consistent. Electric bass is going to be similar. 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers. You want to make sure your angle of attack is the same on each finger, that your contact is the same, that your weight is the same. Just all those variables you want to be consistent. So we're going to work on consistent sound and consistent time today. There's one other thing that I'm thinking about is, I'm guessing a lot of you may have worked on the Sevchek books, which is bowing books. There's a bunch of transcriptions. Hal Robinson's one, which he calls Strokin, is very popular. That's what I learned out of. You can just get the original Sevchek violin bowing book from IMSLP for free, but there's several ones that have been transcribed and focused directly for bass players. this is a consistency thing again, but I just wanted to talk about the first like 1 or 2 exercises in SebCheck. You're doing a scale. You have quarter note on, quarter note off. So quarter note and a quarter note rest. A lot of times people skip through this one saying, oh, quarter notes, I can play that. The question is, can you play quarter notes that are exactly alike? That's at least how I interpret it. So that means the front of the note or the attack is the same, the sustain is the same from note to note, and the ending, whether you do taper it off like that, whether you stop it. Generally, we don't just choke a note, but the end or tail of the note is the same. So when you're playing quarters on and off, say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm listening to all 3 parts of the note when I'm working on that. Front, sustain, getting out of the way, or the envelope coming out. And we can apply that kind of sensitivity to anything we're doing today. So I'm going to start out with some simple exercises, but that's the kind of sensitivity and focus we want to have when we're working to get everything lined up and sounding super even. Some of my favorite electric players can just lay down lines where it just sounds almost like a synthesizer when that's called for. Do you know how hard eighth notes, just doing steady eighth notes are? Just da, 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 da. And you're playing a line, but just everything is so steady and so consistent that it just propels everything. For me, I'm starting, it's like the more I play, the more I'm fascinated by players who have that level of control, and they really can drive a song, because then when they start leaning one way or the other, they've established such a sense of consistency, then they really take you somewhere. So I'm going to throw a few of my favorite links just in terms of consistency, just to hear what that's like. And the last thing I'll say, some of my favorite drummers who can really just lock in with a grid. Well, there's a bunch, but I'm going to put a link also for one of my favorite Lewis Cole recordings, because he's also someone who's just worked really hard on being able to just lock in, almost like a drum machine, except live. So there's a track with him in Mono Neon that I love. But again, just focusing on, not just that it's flashy and the groove is awesome, but just listen to the consistency. That is hard to do, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So let's start. So for the first part of today's warm-ups, we're going to focus on pizzicato. I'm going to be pizzing not the jazz pizz where you hit the next string, but trying to be slightly diagonal, what we'd sort of call an orchestral pizz or just a pluck. And for this first part, we're just thinking about the attack and then just let it ring. It's vaguely similar to one of the exercises in Dennis Whitaker's awesome book, The Incredibly Useful Exercises, Tonalization. So it's a little bit influenced by that, but I'm taking it in a different route. So today, we're going to start with a pizz. You can do this on electric bass, you can do it on upright, either way. So we're going to be at 60, and first we're going to just do a 1 octave A major scale, and we're just going to do quarters. 2 quarters to note. So here we go, we're going to go up and down, don't repeat the top note. 3, 4. Listen to your resonance. Coming down. Now, again, we have 2 different parts here. There's the attack, which is the actual start of it. And if you see the waveform, the attack of a pizz is pretty strong in the front and then a pretty quick decay. On this one, though, we still want to listen to that decay and just notice what it does with the pizz. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and coming down. One more time, I'm going to have you do it by yourself, which is a little different from what I've done before, but I want you to really focus on the sound of your own bass and how closely you can get it lined up with the metronome. So here we go. 3, 4. So the next thing we're going to do is eighth notes. Same idea. Bum, 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 bum. You can do one finger or two. I'm probably going to do one finger today, but you can do two if you wish. Here we go. 1, 2, E and a 3, E and a 4, E and a... Coming down. So for me, even as I was going up, I heard my time waver just a little bit on certain notes. So I'm going to let you do it on your own again. Same idea. 4 per note, up and down, don't repeat the top. See if you can keep it right to the click. Here we go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a A major. Now we're going to do triplets. I'm going to use 2 fingers for this. Same idea, we're staking 2 beats, so that's going to be 6 triplets. Like, see if you can just line it up as well as you can and keep the notes as even as you can. Do it with me once, and then I'll let you do it by yourself. Here we go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a... Okay, your turn on your own. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to do 16ths. Again, I'm going to use 2 fingers. Keep them as even as you can. And even volume and even between the 2 fingers if you're doing that. And there'll be 8 per note. So it'll be like this. The faster we get, you don't have to be super loud, just keep it even. Here we go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... So again, this is a mental exercise as much as it is a playing one, because you're listening hard and you have to keep your mind focused listening to both the placement of the notes and also evenness note to note. So your turn. Here we go. 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So the next concept I want to talk about is how we affect the end of the note. So you could say we have the attack, we have some sort of sustain, although that's a little more prevalent with the bow because we can really make the sustain go long. And then there's the end of the note. So you could call that the taper, or you could choke it and just have pretty much a stop, which doesn't usually sound good. We rarely do that. So you could do a quick stop, you could do sort of a taper. You can sort of think of it about as the envelope of the note. That's a whole nother topic, and you can get very deep into that. But right now, we just want to cut off the note, but make it sound natural and not violent or sudden. So with pizz, there's a couple ways you can do it. For a lot of us, if you have a finger down, you just lightly let the weight off the finger, and it'll mute the string by itself. You could obviously do that on electric as well. In addition to that, if I have more fingers available on either side of where it's playing, I often will add some extra muting. So I might, for instance, if I'm playing with 2, I might have the note down. As I let the weight up, I let it up, and then I actually sort of let my 3 and 4 go down. It's almost like a piano damper pedal coming up. In electric bass, you do that a lot. You do a lot of left-hand muting. So you sort of press, but you have some other fingers around to help control the end of the note. So we're going to try something with that. Really simple. We go. So 3/16 and a 16th rest. Just see if you can get 3 distinct 16ths and then just cut it off in a nice way. So same thing, there's going to be 2 beats, so bum, 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 B, 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 all 1 octave up and down. Here we go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, your turn, same thing. Bum, 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 bum. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. All right, for the last pizz exercise right now, we're going to do an exercise, a rhythm that goes. I'm trying to get it as accurate as I can. In this case, I'm actually doing both left hand and right hand muting. So I dampen it here, and I'll immediately dampen it with my right hand finger as well. Bop, ba-da, bop, bop, ba-da, bop, bop, ba-da, bop, bop. This is pushing it for me, so this is fun. All right, here we go. 1 E and a 2 E and a bop, ba-da, bop, bop, ba-da, bop. Your turn on your own. Bop, ba da, ba, bop, ba da, ba. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Da, 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 da. For this next part, we're going to use the bow. Again, if you're on electric, just do what you can. Just repeat the exercises when we go to the bow. We're going to go back to quarters at 60. We're going to change to C major just to have something else going on. First, we're going to do 2 quarters per note, just up the octave. We're not going to come down. But again, listen to your ring, the length of the note, and we're going to start changing that. So first pizz, quarter notes, 2 per note. 1, 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. There we go. Now take the bow and we're going to see if we can imitate that same length. So it's going to sound like this, and so pretty much full length. If there's any space, it's only there to make sure the next articulation is clear. But otherwise, full sustain. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, now we're going to treat them like dotted eighth notes. So basically 3/16 in length. So ba, ba. We're going to do pizz first, and that means you're going to need to dampen it with your left hand. Ba, 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 ba. Like that. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Now we're going to do eighth note with an eighth note rest. So it'll, actually, sorry, I forgot the arco. We'll do that arco first. So 3/16 on, 1/16 off. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Now you might notice when I'm doing it with arco, I'm doing a little bit of dampening in the left hand and letting the weight off. Sorry, so the finger comes slightly off right at the end, but the other things I'm doing with the bow is on one hand, I'm at the very last second, I slow the bow down. It's not slamming on the brakes, but it's slowing down and the weight is slightly coming out of the string. So I wish I had a closer camera angle here, but my weight is, I'm pressing in, and then you'll see if you were looking down at my bow, you'd see the weight comes off just a little bit right at the end of the stroke. That's also how I'm able to control the taper and shape of the end of the note. Let's do that one more time. So this is dotted eighths. Ba, bum, with the bow. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. We're just going to do eighths, 1 on, 1 off. So bum, stop, ba, stop, bum. But make sure it sounds nice. Pizz first. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. One thing I noticed there, when I was doing the open string, I forgot for a second and I just plop my hand down, and that's sort of audible. So you notice the next time I did it, I did that move, which is sort of, again, it's a gradual mute. You just sort of slide your finger in from the top, because it's audible when you're doing it by yourself, but it's also audible in a bass section if everybody goes and then stops it right at the same place. So just something to be aware of. So now we're going to do that with a bow. 8th notes on, 8th notes off. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. There we go. So to take it apart further, we're going to do just a 1 octave C major scale, just going up, 2 8th notes, quarter rest, 2 8th notes, quarter rest, like this. But the thing I want to focus on is the lengths again. So first we're going to do 2 completely sustained 8ths. Then we'll do variations shorter. First, sustain, 1 octave. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Good. Now we're going to do the 3/4 lengths. So in this case, just a slight rest sounding like this. It's just a sliver of daylight between the notes. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. And now we're going to do staccato, in this case pretty much half length, like 16ths. And I'm pretty much muting it with the bow to get it to be that short. For this one, let's go up and down just so we have a little more time to focus on it. So don't repeat the top note, but 1 octave up and down. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Coming down. The goal of doing exercises like this is to really listen basically in high definition. Often we'll play a note, and it's easy not to think so much about the end of it. It just, yeah, there's an end. But we're thinking in a broad sense. And when I'm thinking about the grid or working on intricacies of timing, I'm wanting to almost like zoom in so I have a lot of subdivisions. So you'll notice when I was counting off on all these, I'd go into 16ths, even if we were doing quarters. That's because I'm trying to turn up my sensitivity to exactly where the end of the notes are and the beginning, and just try to sensitize myself to that so I'm aware as I keep moving through the exercises. For this next exercise, you can do it pizz or arco. Basically, we're just going to do a bass groove, nothing fancy. It's going to be like this. When I first started playing bass, I remember getting together with my friend Nima in the bass room at Metz Middle School, Manassas, Virginia, and we would just jam out on bass lines, something like this, and it was just so fun because it was all about just the groove. It wasn't fancy notes, but it was just finding a groove. And eventually the orchestra director would come and pull us out and say, "Why aren't you in rehearsal?" But this was just the stuff that both of us were really excited by, why bass playing was fun. It was really just laying down something really solid and having fun doodling around on top of it. So we're going to do this today. So we've talked about lengths of notes, focusing. This time we're going to be talking about pulse. So first I'm going to play it with you, with a metronome. Then I'm going to let you play it by yourself. But the metronome's going to drop out at some times. And the point here is to use the metronome as a reference, not as what you're sitting on. So it's very easy when you're using the metronome just to start relying on it almost, I don't want to say like a crutch, but like something that you're literally, like a chair almost that you're sitting on. As you get your sense of pulse stronger, you want the metronome just to be a reference to let you know if your pulse is moving around. So in this case, we'll start the metronome out So we're just going to do an eighth note pattern to start. Again, just a simple little bass line. And then we'll see what happens when the metronome drops out for a while and then comes back in. I want you to check, are you right on? If not, which way are you leaning? Just become sensitized to that. So I'll play it through it with you 2 times, and then I'm going to cut out, and you're going to do it on your own. Just keep looping it, and you'll notice that sometimes the metronome will go off. Just keep going, stay steady, and see what happens. Here we go. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... Go ahead. All right, how was that? Hopefully it gave you some information. Just you could see which way you were leaning. We're gonna do a slightly different one, same groove, but we'll do that rhythm. Here we go. 1, 2, 3 and a 4 and a... Okay, here's another variation. We'll do dotted eighth with a 16th and a quarter rest. Bum, ba, bum, ba, ba, da. Just keep subdividing in your head and just check your placement and keep the pulse going. Here we go. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... Okay, now here's one to try your speed. I'm still working on this one. So I'll do my best, and then you get to have your chance with the metronome on and off. Here we go. So it's da-da-da, 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 ba-da-da, same groove. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... So now we're just going to do a cool down. And what would be a good way to cool down after all of that? We're just going to go back to long tones, listening to a nice sustained tone, an easy C major, 2 octaves, nice and sustained, like this. So just 2 notes long each. 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and a. There you go. I hope that was helpful. I hope it gave you some ideas for your own practice. I will also say at the end, I noticed even when I went back to this last scale and I was focusing on sustain, I would start noticing, wait a second, my attacks aren't quite on the money as far as lining them up with the metronome beat. So that just tells me, well, it tells me 2 things. One is when you concentrate on one thing, sometimes something else slips away. But the other thing is this whole warm-up we've been doing, we've been focusing on our awareness on, basically focusing on turning up our awareness on that actual placement. And now I'm noticing when it's not there. So that's a very large reason that we do this, is to fine-tune not just your playing, but your awareness. Your awareness comes first. And then once you're aware of something that's not quite off and you've really turned up, again, it's like high definition. You're aware in a very highly sensitive way. You notice stuff's off and then you can fix it, but you can't fix it if you don't notice it. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you for another one.